Hi everyone, it's me, your girl Kavanda, and I am back with another video. So of course, this month we have been talking about sickle cell disease and sickle cell awareness month. I've been bringing you some content talking about that. So as promised, I have my lovely mother, Catherine, and she is coming on to give us her experience as having a child with sickle cell disease. And we're just gonna have a conversation. We're just gonna talk about it. So there's no formal, we don't have any formal questions or anything like that. So as you're watching, if you have a question that you want to ask my mom, go ahead on and put that down in the description box and we will surely get back to you with an answer to your question. So there's my mom. Hey, Miss Catherine.
Hello, my darling daughter, and
So,
everybody else just out there watching.
in YouTube land. So of course, you know that it's Sickle Cell Awareness Month, and I wanted to bring some content of having you tell your experience of raising a child with sickle cell disease. So my first question I wanted to ask you to get the conversation started is, how old was I when I was diagnosed, and how did you find out I was diagnosed with sickle cell disease?
I found out you was diagnosed with sickle cell disease at 2.5. You was real young. You was real young.
I was a toddler. So I thought I was an infant.
Yeah, you was a toddler. Yeah, you was a toddler. Yeah, you was a toddler. And the way I found out is I just kept up my regular appointments or your regular appointments, going back and forth to the doctors. At that time, they had clinics. And I was just fortunate that the clinic was aware of sickle cell, but I didn't know it at the time. I just thought I was just taking you in for regular checkups because you had something wrong with your legs. Okay. That's another whole story. That's another whole story.
And we'll talk about that.
Right. And so I was taking you about your legs, and then maybe a week later, I thought everything was fine. And maybe a week later, they called me and told me to come back in. And I'm thinking, and I'm like, what's going on? But it was two things. They wanted to tell me about your legs. You had to have braces because your foot was overlapping, and that you had sickle cell disease.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, those were the two things. I had no clue what sickle cell was back in the 70s. I had just graduated, we had been out of school 2 years, high school. And I had no clue what sickle cell was. So I was just going on what the doctor said,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how old was I? So you was taking me back and forth just for regular checkups. And then you noticed that it was something going on with my legs, like they wasn't straight. So I wasn't walking at that time.
No, you was walking.
Okay.
Both of y'all started walking. You and your sister walked early. Y'all walked 9 months. Y'all had been walking.
So I was trying to chase and keep up with my big sister.
Right. And so it was, is that you just kept falling, tripping over your feet. I just kept noticing you, tripping over your own feet. You'll go so far, I tried to run, but you couldn't because you kept tripping over your feet because your feet was overlapping like this on one another.
Okay.
So I went and, was going back and I told them about it. But yeah, that's how I found out.
Okay. So then you go to the clinic, they tell you about that. So what was your response when they said, oh, and she has sickle cell disease?
They was just, like I said, I didn't know anything about sickle cell. Never heard nothing about it. Young woman, just become a woman, got 2 kids, had no sickness in me or whatever, didn't think about her father's side, your father's side. And, I didn't really know what it was until you started getting sick.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Until you started getting sick. because the first 2 years up until you got 3, it was normal. You know, you weren't sick or whatever. But once you turned 3, that's when the sickness and the pain and stuff started kicking in. That's when you start being hospitalized. From the time you was 3 until you was 4, you had been in the hospital like 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you never did have to have a transfusion. They was treating for pneumonia, pain. You never did really complain about pain unless it was really, really bad.
Okay.
And the one that changed things, and I started to get educated about sickle cell. That's when I started really paying attention, keeping up with your blood, red count, your white count, and all this other kind of stuff, your diet. And y'all used to think I was so hard because I would give y'all candy and stuff like that. You know,
you can play. I always tell my viewers, like, my mama did not play with me and my oldest sister, okay? Like, she was about the business. She did not play with us. She was
right.
But one thing, Ma, I do remember, like, when I was younger, you were an avid reader.
Right.
And so you learn a lot through trying to read information.
Well, back at the time, when we was in Pennsylvania,
mm-hmm.
and it was cold,
mm-hmm.
and you know, being a young mother, didn't have a car or whatever. So, but when I would go to the doctors with you, I would ask them for information.
Okay.
You know, so I could read up, and that's where I got, you know, y'all diet, and I see that it would be good for you, me, and Erica.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I based our living on, the milk and the vitamin C. So, you know, I always made y'all take vitamins
mm-hmm.
and, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No nonsense food, all this junk. No, we didn't do that. I cooked every day.
I remember, yeah. You cooked us meals every single day for us. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was fortunate in Pennsylvania that the doctor, it went up at the grace of God, that was following your case was a Black doctor.
Oh, okay.
He was a Black doctor. Because in Pennsylvania, the majority of the people were white, you know, this little small town. And most of the Black people went to the clinics, and most of the doctors that was there were Black. The nurses was white, and you would have Black doctors, you know, doing,
so they were studying and practicing.
Right. And it was kind of like a new disease, you know, that they was finding.
Right. Because the age I was born in 72. Everyone on YouTube knows that I'm always preaching about I'm getting ready to turn 50, so I don't care about telling my age. So I was born in 72, and it really didn't become really known until around about that age. A lot of people don't know that the Black Panthers was the first ones to start supporting. Right. They started supporting programming, funding, research.
Research for sickle cell. And it was more prevalent in the Black community.
Yeah, at first they thought it was a Black disease.
At one time, they thought that the only ones that can get sickle cell were Black people.
Yeah.
You know,
which we now know that they were definitely educated.
Right. You have to get educated about it. So
educated about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how old was I? Because I do remember. So speaking of my legs, I do remember my braces, very vivid. And I wore them. I want to say I wore them for what, 2-3 years.
You wore those braces, like I said, from the age of 3 to almost 5.
Yeah, I remember vividly wearing them and trying to climb upstairs with them because you didn't play. I was not allowed to go anywhere without them on.
Right, because I wanted your
feet in and out of the car with those braces on was challenging.
You even learned, I think it made your bones
stronger
and your blood flow. with the exercise that you did. You took them off at night.
Yeah, at night.
You just so happy when we got home, got a bath, and after you got home from school, and you were just excited to get your bath and get your pajamas on because you didn't have to sleep in them.
I know, and they were heavy because we have to think about now. It's so funny because I work with children now. That's what I do as a profession with delays and disabilities. And I live in a rural county. Most of it is predominantly white, but I did have one child on my caseload that had sickle cell disease. And so it's just so funny how, you know, the Lord brings you full circle in things. Yeah. And I can remember this little one because he had to wear braces as well, but his wasn't as far as mine. I remember mine came down from my ankles all the way up to my hip.
Right, because it was trying to straighten out the bones from your hips all the way down to your feet, because you was like this. It was like bold, you know, and so they had to keep that part straight so your feet finally did straighten out. And when they did, and they took them braces off with about 10 pair of shoes.
I had 10 pair of shoes.
You had 10 pair of shoes. I bought you every shoe I could think of for you to wear. And you were so happy that you could run.
It's so funny because right now, today, I still stand like straight, like straight up. And everyone always say, oh my goodness, come on. I look taller than what I am. I think that's
because it was because of your posture.
Straight. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's because of your posture. Yeah. And so I was blessed to get the doctors. And then after from 3, you had started in and out of the hospital. And the last term that you went when you had the stroke. Yeah. And I didn't know nothing about strokes.
Right. So how old was I when I had the stroke?
You was almost 4.
Okay.
You was almost 4. And the doctors, when I went to take you because you were sick to the hospital emergency room, they came in and they looked at you, and then they came back and said, well, she had a stroke. And I'm like, what is a stroke? I was never, you know, I'm just a young girl. I never knew anything about strokes or the physical health, or because we didn't do that in the South, in Alabama. They didn't teach you anything, and you just didn't know. But anyway, you had stroke, and you was right-handed until you had the stroke.
Yeah.
And so when you had the stroke, you was on your right side, and they thought that was hard because most of the time people have a stroke is on their left side, but you had it on your right side.
Yeah.
And so you had to learn how to write. And so I started teaching you to write with your left hand. And that's why you ended up left-handed today.
Yeah. And eat and all of those things. Yeah. In the therapy.
Yeah. Right, and all that. That's what we did. This therapy. It was showing you how to. You had no problem with walking. It was just in your arm, in your right arm. That's the only black, you know, that you had. It wasn't on your, you know, with your legs, and it was just in that one arm, and it didn't do anything to your brain.
So they thought.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They didn't show it. It showed that you had a stroke. But it didn't show any damage beyond that. You know, just the paralysis in your right arm and hand when you couldn't hold the pencil and write. So, you know, I'm like, okay. So that was it. And then we came home when you was 5. We moved back to Alabama when you was 5. And the reason I did after that, we went back to the doctor, and it was still winter. It was in the winter. And Pennsylvania is terrible for cold weather, snowing, sleeting, and whatever. And the doctor asked me where I was from. And I told him I was from Alabama. And he said, Ms. Jordan, I advise you to take your daughter back to Alabama because she's going to keep catching pneumonia and whatever. So it was best for her condition that she be in a warmer climate. So after that, gotta go.
So if I would have never been diagnosed with sickle cell and been sick, do you think you ever would have moved back to your hometown?
No, I wouldn't have.
So that was, when I'm always talking about the sacrifices of a parent, that's one sacrifice that you made for me and for my care, so I can have the best care, is to move back down to a warmer climate. So
you know what? I thank God for that, because it would never God through the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what? I wasn't saved then or whatever. They had no idea about being saved. Knew the Lord, but not saved.
Right.
But anyway, coming back to Mobile was the best thing that I could have done for you, was being sick, and for Erica, your older sister, to come back. Because up there, I had a brother up there, but he lived in Ohio. And that's like 3 hours, 2 hours away from where we was at. But he would come over and he would do or whatever, but it wasn't like having somebody in the neighborhood, or having my mom, my dad, my brothers, my sisters, because they played a big part in taking care of you while I worked. My daddy didn't want me to work. He didn't want me to work. He wanted me to stay home with you.
Yeah.
But Dad, I got to work. I got to support him,
Yeah.
And he'd be like, I support him. But anyway, that's the way he was.
Yeah. He was my biggest cheerleader. He was like, don't do anything to my baby. That's my baby. When everyone else would get in trouble, I wouldn't get in trouble, because, he just had that special attachment to me. Did he ever, because I don't ever remember, because, of course I was young, so I don't remember y'all sitting around like talking about me having sickle cell. It wasn't like a big deal in the house.
No.
Just like I was treated like everyone else, except for when it came to my grandpa, because he, didn't punish me and stuff like that.
I
thought I was his favorite. He never, made that known. He treated me that way because I was sick.
No. It was just that you was his baby. He knew you had been sick. Of course, I told him.
Yeah.
What the reason I was coming back home and stuff like that. And my daddy always had the saying, if I got a board, my children would share that board with me. We all get up under that one board together, and my grandchildren. So it was never talked about that, oh, she's sickly or she do this, because you kept up with the kids just like all the other ones.
Yeah. I remember times of still going in and out of the hospital throughout my childhood. And I think it wasn't until like I made a decision, maybe around about 15 or so.
Right.
I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And I started to want better for myself in terms of stop going in and out of the hospital so much. But I remember you would, like you were saying earlier, it was strict, like our eating habits were strict. Me taking my medications was strict. Even getting the support like when I was in the crises. So let's fast forward a little bit. So now you move back to Alabama, so it's warmer. Do you feel like I got better once you moved back to Alabama and I had less frequent hospital visits?
Yes. The reason was Dr. Hayes. I'll never forget him as long. I know you remember him.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Dr. Hayes.
Another African-American doctor, by the way, you guys.
Right. He's African. He's a sickle cell researcher. And he was just getting into it. He had only been into it maybe about 5 years. And you were his case because he was so amazed of how well you were doing, when he first saw you. And he was just amazed. He said, yeah, we see some sickling in her blood, and her counts are good or whatever. But he did tell me as she get older, the counts is going to go down. One is going to go up, then one is going to go down. And then she'll start having the crisis in which you did. In which you did.
More, yeah.
Right. So, but it was just God sent it to him. Yeah. And he kept me informed with the Sickle Cell Association. You didn't want to go.
No, I didn't. But you
didn't want to go. You didn't want to go. But we went, you know, and I had to work and anything that would come up that was involving sickle cell to educate me, and I would take it back to the family, you know, with them watching me with stuff like that. It was due to Dr. Hayes.
Yeah.
It was due to Dr. Hayes.
Because now I can remember during those times when we transitioned home, I remember some things about Pennsylvania, like I can remember going to therapy. I remember that. I don't remember like necessarily getting trained how to like write again. I don't remember that.
But it was only 4, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of that. I just thought I was left-handed because I was left-handed.
No.
But then when we moved back, I remember going to Dr. Hayes and you taking me to the Sickle Cell Association and seeing and playing with the other kids. But of course I was young, so I didn't know that I had sickle cell disease. I guess that's what I should say. Because we didn't like sit down and say, you didn't sit down and was like, okay, you have sickle cell disease, this is why. I think my first memory of you telling me I had sickle cell disease is when Dr. Hayes put me on folic acid.
Right.
I don't know how old I was, maybe what, 7, 8?
You was about 9, 8, 9, somewhere around up in there. Yeah.
So that's like my first memory of knowing that I had sickle cell disease. I just thought I was sick and had to go back and forth to the hospital. But because I don't remember any other medication outside of like pain medication they will give me, but like a daily medicine outside of vitamins he was giving me, the only one I had was folic acid.
Right, that was the only one that you had, but it was so many different stages of going through. And I never wanted you to feel that you were any different from any other children, especially of learning.
Yeah.
Like you said, that we was talking the other night about how your grandbaby and my great grandbaby learning and sitting at the table, and you know, and I'm knowing you can do this, but you wanted to play on my emotion to especially your granddaddy emotion.
Because he gonna let me get up. Like, no.
That's what he would say. Let her loose. That's when I moved. Can't do it. I had to move. Because you're not gonna raise my children. You know, because you couldn't call them grandma and grandpa. You had to call them mom and dad. You had to call them
mom and dad.
Yeah, so you had to call them mom and daddy. But but that's why I was hard, not, I'm gonna say strict, because I didn't want you to give up. I didn't want you to play that card that, oh, I'm sick, I can't do it, you know, and this and that. And my family would say, why you so hard on them girls? It wasn't just you, it was Erica too.
Yeah, you was definitely hard on both of us. That treatment was equal.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They would say, why you so hard on them? I said, I'm letting them know that whatever they need to get or what they want, they're gonna have to work for it and fight for it. Even if it is their health or whatever it is in life. Yeah. You got to work for it and you got to fight for it.
Yeah, and we already had some strikes against us. One, we were females, and two, we were Black females. And so, and we were in the Deep South, and so it was certain things that you wanted us to know that we needed to work hard and do our best at anything that we wanted to accomplish, whatever it was.
Right.
So, you were definitely honest, and I thank you right now to this day. And I'm always talking to my YouTube followers in terms of what you allowed me to do and what I couldn't. It wasn't, I know that you were hard. You were hard like that on my sister too, but as a teenager growing up, you don't see it that way. You see it as, okay, why are you allowing her to get to do all these extracurricular activities and you won't allow me to do them?
No, because your body couldn't stand it.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, me being a teenager or preteen, I was like, but I want to do this, you know, I want to do that. And you was like, no, you're not. No.
No, you couldn't.
Sit down. You're not going to do that.
Right. You couldn't, and that's what the doctor was saying, that there were certain things that would trigger a crisis.
Mhm.
You know, it was overexerting your body
Yeah.
and not getting enough rest
Yep.
and your diet
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, you can't do it.
Because I don't know if you know, due to all the research that is now, you know, more research in terms of sickle cell than it was when I was younger, they actually have what they call fatigue syndrome. So it's a lot of sickle cell patients, they have fatigue syndrome where they're so exhausted and so tired that they really can't do anything, not due to the lack of trying. It's just that due to you trying to work so hard and your blood cells are pumping these sickle cells, which cause you to have more pain crises. And after a pain crisis, you are so tired, even though the pain has stopped, it takes a while to come back to your
and that's what Dr. Haynes had explained to me. But the most amazing thing to him and another doctor you had, I forgot his name, was that you never did have to have a transfusion.
Right. Until I got older. How old was I when I got my first transfusion?
You was grown.
Oh, so you didn't, I thought I got transfusions when I was in the hospital.
No. You didn't get no, you never had a transfusion. Not until you got grown. You was grown.
I know I've had so many that I can't count now.
Well, right, but from the time you was born until you got grown, it was after Marcus was born.
So maybe that's what triggered it, because I do know that they talked to us about me having children, saying one, yes, you can have children, but it's recommended that you don't allow her to have children, or recommended that you go ahead on with certain surgeries like removing my spleen, having a hysterectomy to save my life and stuff like that. So when the doctors came and was talking to you about those types of things, what gave you the courage to tell them no? Because they wanted to do these things, let me caution, they wanted to do these things as preventative measures, but you had the courage to say no. So what gave you the courage to say, no, you're not going to do all those things on my child?
Okay, well, the first doctor, going back to Pennsylvania, they had this white doctor that was in there, and I didn't see the black doctor that day. It was later on. It was a clinic, so you didn't have all of the same doctor all the time.
So whoever was in rotation,
right. And it was this white doctor. He read his notes, and he had the nerve enough to tell me, your daughter won't see her 18th birthday. I'm like, what? She would never be able to have children. I'm like, what? And I'm like, and I told him right then, I said, you a lie.
That's right.
I said, I did. I really told him, and you was a baby. Is you crazy?
So like, how you gonna predict my future? You just a practitioner.
You're not gonna tell me what. I'm not gonna believe that word. And like I said, I wasn't even saved then, back in that day. But I'm like, oh no. I said, you a lie. And I told him to his face, just like that, you a lie. My daughter is gonna live. My daughter is gonna have her children and gonna have a full life. I refuse to believe that report. Well, you can, I'm thinking it's smart. Well, you can believe what I'm just telling you what's gonna happen. I'm okay then. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
And I left.
And so, who was the next doctor that came to talk to you about like the operation type stuff?
Okay, you were about 10, 9 or 10, and we was in the study at USA.
Hospital.
That's a hospital here in Alabama that we was going to, and that's what Dr. Hayes was doing the study from the University of
South Alabama.
South Alabama. And so we was under that key. And so we was going in, and they was, because the hospital is a teaching hospital.
Yes.
One. They have all the interns and stuff go through there, and it's a teaching hospital. And so they was coming through, and they was examining you, and they came through and told me, Miss Jordan, we need to set up a thing to get her spleen removed. I'm like, what? And so anyway, they made a diagnosis, and I'm just listening to them and stuff. And I'm sitting in the waiting room, not in the room with you. And this resident doctor, it was a female, white female. She came back and she was talking to me, and she said, Miss Jordan, do not let them remove your daughter's spleen. She said, I know I can get thrown out the, she told me, she said, I know I can get thrown out of the residency for coming telling you or going against the head doctor that was over there. But here, go on and give you these papers so you can read about a spleen. And your spleen wasn't bothering you. It wasn't bothering you. And so the next visit we had, I told him, nope, I ain't finna do it. I ain't finna do it. And then I went back to Dr. Hayes, and he said, you're right, Miss Jordan. If it don't bother you, leave it alone. And we'll handle it if it comes up. That's what he told me. If it's something like that will come up, we will handle it. And so after that, I just did what Dr. Hayes told me until you got grown.
Yeah, and it's so funny because now, even when I go in, of course, for my sickle cell care, not as much now, but most of the time as an adult, when I would go in for care, they were still surprised that I still have my spleen. I've never had any operations on any of my major organs in my body, or I've never, I didn't go through with a hysterectomy, and I have 2 children. So they are still amazed at that, especially by me having SS, which there are different forms of sickle cell disease, some at the lower level and some at the higher level. And I have the diagnosis of the one that's at the highest level, which is the SS disease. So now there are all other kinds of sickle cell disease and traits that give them different names. And so I have the diagnosis of one of the ones that's the highest in terms of pain crises and organ failure and those types of things. But by the grace of God, I haven't had any of those. And with my amazing care from my mom, I haven't had to experience those, because I can just imagine like how you was thinking, or that process was, one, with you being a young mother of 2 young girls and one that had this disease or this health condition that you were learning as you were going, and learning how to be a mom as you was raising your kids, because you were young. Right.
Do you remember when you got to Pennsylvania? I mean, not Pennsylvania. When you was in Virginia, and you was out, and when you woke up, I was there.
Yes. So I was telling everyone about that. That was after I had my daughter. So I remember going in and out the hospital a lot as a child, especially in my elementary school years. I spent a lot of time in the hospital. So by the time I made it to middle school, I didn't go to the hospital as much, but there were other issues that kind of like reared their little head. So, and we'll get to talking about the Virginia thing. So, but when I was in middle school, like going back to like how we used to talk about how my mom made me sit there and try to study for hours at a time.
Yeah.
So once I got into middle school, they came to my mom and was like, okay, we see some discrepancies with Kavanda's learning, and we want to talk to you about this program. Do you remember that, Mama? I was like in the sixth, I think I was in the sixth grade going to the seventh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I spent my seventh grade and my eighth grade year. This is when they really was doing different things in special education. Because I didn't have like special education back then in the 70s and the 80s were for students that had severe health issues,
Right.
like autism or Down syndrome or some type of physical ailment where they needed a lot of support and assistance in terms of assistant technology like wheelchairs and stuff like that. So of course I didn't have any of that. So this new program came out where they would teach or call individualized instruction, which we know now in the education world as pull-out instructions, where you will have a lot of your main courses in your regular classroom setting with your peers, but the courses that you were struggling with or they identified that you had a delay in, they will pull you out and put you in a smaller group setting so you can get more one-on-one instruction or help and support. So that I participated in that in 7th and 8th grade. And that's what I mean about like with the stroke. Of course, at that time, they didn't say anything in terms of brain damage or any of that.
Right.
But we do know with that stroke, it caused me to start learning differently. I know it was challenging. It wasn't that I couldn't learn. I just learned differently. And it took me a while to grasp and to continue to understand concepts. So I was put in that. And I think that was during the time when I was like, right before I got to high school. I remember they called me and you in. I don't know if you remember this. I was in 8th grade and they were talking to you about next steps because now I'm leaving that school and I'm going to go into high school. And we were in the principal's office and they was like, okay, Miss Jordan, talking to you at that time. This is Kavanda's made great progress. She excels well in these 2 classes because it's, you know, it's a more inducive learning environment because it's less kids. She has less distraction. She has more supports. But when she goes to high school, they don't have these type of classes at the high school level. So either she's going to swim or she's going to sink. Do you remember that?
Yeah, right. And I told them, I said, she going to swim.
That's what you said. You told them, oh, she gonna swim. And then you looked at me and said, and you gonna swim. And so and I was just like, well, whatever my mama say.
You gonna swim. And you did.
And I did, yeah.
And you did. And you did.
Yeah, I accept
it. It was cause of the support. It was cause of the support of your family. Not just me. You had uncles, aunties, your auntie Faye, and everybody was pulling for you, so you had another choice.
Yeah, but I think in my elementary school years, even though I had a different way of learning, in my elementary school years, I think that's what impacted me the most, like what you were saying, giving up because you have this disease or feel like you're different. I felt like my experience in my elementary school years played a big part in that as well because of, you know, some of the things that I went through in the hospital and missing a lot of time. But then when coming back to school, not having the support, some teachers did, but the most teachers was like, okay, you get in where you fit in. But if I'd have missed, you know, a month's worth of work, how you expect for me to just come back in and be able to do what everyone else is doing when they didn't have all this time to catch up with that. So,
every time I think,
I know you're gonna say it.
Every time I think about that, I think about Miss White. Lord, I
shouldn't say her name. Like you gotta never say her name, but
you're gonna have to edit that out. 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 But yeah. I remember that. I remember that. I was furious. I was ready to fight.
Yeah.
I was actually ready to fight.
Because I know, you know, when because she just did all those terrible, terrible things. But the one thing that what you was ready to fight for, my YouTubers know, I've told them this before, when she just like really humiliated me and made me feel like
dirt.
Just or lower than, if you can get any lower.
Or like you was retarded
or something like that, right? And it wasn't that. It was like, how do you expect for me to be out for the first 2 weeks of school, 3 weeks, or however long it was?
Yeah, it wasn't
back. Yeah, and the day I come back, you know, the day I start, not come back, but the day I start,
because you had chicken pox. You had chicken pox. And that's why you was out. And then she didn't want to believe you had chicken pox because you didn't have no scars.
She was just a mess, Mom. She did so many things to me. I can't remember, like, because, okay, you guys, I was in the 5th grade. So I can't remember, like, all the, like, details in, like, the time frame in which things happened. But I do remember what she did to me. So, yes, with the chicken pox. She was mad and upset about that, and she took that out on me, and she was just a hot mess. But the day that she told me in front of the class, you don't have sickle cell disease, you have lazy cell disease.
You have the lazy cell disease.
And my whole class, they're 5th graders, they don't know any better, laughed and pointed and taunted. And she just said that repeatedly over and over. And I just felt so bad. So when I got home, I just went to my bed and I laid down in my bed and I just cried and cried and cried. And when you came in there and found me, what you said, Mama? Do you remember?
I said, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Erica Blabbermouth. She said, Mama,
sister.
Mama, Miss White did something to Pete. I don't know what she said, but she won't talk to me. I said, okay. And then you told me. I didn't go to work the next day. I didn't go to work. I went straight to the school, and Mr. Harris was the principal. Because I couldn't.
He wasn't the principal then, Mom. He was a teacher in her grade, but he wasn't the principal.
Oh, that's right. He was a teacher in the grade. He later became principal. But anyway, I went to the principal. He was the principal.
No, he wasn't. Because he was on the same hall.
Oh, no.
Teacher.
No, I'm sorry.
That's one of the other children.
That was Annie. He was the principal.
Yeah.
But I had told Miss Hill about Annie. But anyway, the principal called me in and said, Miss Jordan, go and talk to her. And he was talking to me, trying to say that, we don't have many Black teachers and just a Black school and blah, 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 blah. Because I was ready to.
She was Black. Oh, what you were saying, he wanted me to stay with her because she was Black?
No. He didn't want me to file charges at the school board.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to settle it there.
Yeah.
Right there in the thing.
In the office.
And in the office. When I'm in the office.
Yeah.
No, I went and after that, he called her in and we sat and he left out of his office and he said, y'all come in here and talk it out.
Oh, I don't remember this. Let me get my popcorn. I don't remember this part.
Yeah. So I went in and I talked to him. And he called Miss White into the office. And me and her was in his office. And because he was giving me, before I met with him, he was giving me all of this, we don't have that many qualified teachers. And it's hard for a Black person. But back in that time, which was true, most Black teachers taught at Black school.
Yeah. You hit your mute button. It's at the bottom. Technical difficulties, you guys. Let me see if I can. Okay, I got you back.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. But anyway, he was just talking and stuff. And so she came into the office, and I'm mean. I'm mean getting her, and and all frowned up and whatever. And I told her, I said, I'm here because I didn't like the way you talked to my daughter. I said, you don't know what she's been through, and for you to tell her that she didn't have sickle cell, she had lazy cell. And I went to asking her questions. Did she know what sickle cell was? She didn't know. I went to asking her, do you know what they go through and why she missed so many days, why she went in school the first 3 weeks of school? And I just went to ask her, and she really didn't have any clue.
Or wanted to find out, because she could have asked me or called a meeting with you.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But she'd been a teacher for so many years, and they were used to doing things they wanted to do, and they would get away with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they would just, and the principals and stuff would just let them get away with it. But I'm a crazy black woman.
That's right.
I'm a defender.
Yeah.
When they're in the right. Now, if they're in the wrong, I'm gonna get on them, and I'm not gonna hold them up for being wrong. But I'm not gonna let somebody degrade my child for an illness that she has, and then make it light and make it like this is a fun thing. So, but anyway, I talked to her, and then before I got out of there, she was boo-hoo crying. I didn't know. And I said, I can have your job. I can really put you, go to the school board and put you out. But you need to start educating these black children about these diseases and stuff out there, because you never know how many you would affect. And so I had to pray about it, but after that, didn't have no more trouble with it. I just went on and said, well, I'm gonna be watching you.
Yeah, because I can remember they would like, when a principal came in, or when I was in there with y'all with the principal, he asked, okay, do you want us to switch teachers? And you was like, no.
No, right. That's what I told him. Listen, no.
Same class. And so I was like, oh Lord. But it made me stronger in the end. But even though she had that conversation with you, the taunting and the teasing and stuff like that, she didn't stop with that. That just continued. But I knew how you was as a mom, and I was afraid that you would get in trouble. So I just stopped telling you the hard stories, and I just went through that. So that whole year was like a traumatic time for me. But she never stopped with the teasing. I think she was just faking a funk, crying in front of you and all of that. But she would do all kind of stuff to me when I was in school.
See, if I had known that.
I know that. I just didn't tell you. I just, went on to school. And for me, I never felt like I never wanted to be a burden, because I always felt like you guys were so kind and patient with me anyway. So I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't want to add anything else to it.
Right. I didn't want to.
I could take this, but you had also had that learning from your granddaddy too, because your granddaddy, how we used to joke and tease.
Yeah.
And he would tell you, he would say, if you can't take somebody talking about you, you're going to end up dead.
He was something else. And we had this family game we used to play called, was it Pass It On? Pass It On, and all this different kind of stuff. So he was definitely very instrumental in me being a strong person as well. Well, all my family was, because we were just really, really close, and still are real close like that. And it was a lot of us. So you know, we were just close like
Yeah,
that.
because I was taught the same way. If you're gonna wear your heart or your feelings on your sleeve, it's gonna get knocked off. And you're gonna keep on running up into somebody's face instead of walking away from them and going on by your business, you're gonna end up in a real bad place. So you don't give it's like bullying. That's exactly what it's like. It's like bullying. I ain't paying you no attention, you will go on by your business.
Yeah, and I think with that and having my family, because I didn't need any friends because I had my family and we were really close. So that really helped me as well, because after she did that, you know, the community we lived in was real small. So I still continue to go to school with all those kids that taunted me and teased me, you know, through 5th grade. We went on to school and middle school and all of that. And some of that still continue because, of course, you know, you young, you don't know. But when I got to high school, it was a little bit different. You know, kids go to different high schools and stuff like that. And it got better. But I did want to just talk to people about that because I wanted them to know how you kind of like dealt with that situation. You had to continue to deal with teachers in terms of me missing a lot of school, me trying to get my instruction time and all of that. So now I moved on to high school, you guys, and I did well in high school. You know, I had that one hiccup where I had to go to summer school. My mom paid that one time and she was like, "It's the last time I'm paying for you, and I'm not paying for you no more. Because if you fail, guess what? You're gonna repeat." And I never, after that, that was the end of that. That was the end of that. And then
you couldn't enjoy your summer.
Right. And so I went on and I had my first child at 18. And so then I thought I was grown. I was like, I'm moving away from my mom. I ain't got time for her trying to tell me what to do no more. I'm tired of this. Just being, you know, rebellious, in which I should have listened to her more. We've had these conversations. But I do also felt like I wanted to go out and venture, because remember, I tell you, she was real protective of me. So I wasn't, even though her and my family did a great job of exposing me and my sister to different things. We always traveled. We always took vacations. We always just did a lot of things that were exposed to different cultures and that kind of stuff growing up. But in terms of me having individualized things that I could do, she was like, no, but she knew best. I just didn't see it that way. So once I had the opportunity, I was like, deuces, peace, I'm out. And put my baby up on my hip. And of course, I moved back to Virginia, where it was cold. And I did okay until I had my daughter. So that's what my mom at 23. So I did well with the pregnancy. She came up when I had the baby and all of that. And that went really well. So after she went home, right before Jabri turned, that was after she was a year. She had turned a year.
She had turned a year.
She had turned a year. A week after she turned a year is when I had that really bad sickle cell episode that landed me in the hospital.
Crisis,
unconscious. I couldn't see. I lost
I
was in the ICU, in the ICU. The fever and stuff down. And I had no idea she was there until I woke up. And so that lasted about, I know I was in the hospital for about maybe 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks.
I was there until I was there until you got
longer. I probably was in about 3 months maybe, because you stayed the whole time I was there and you took care of Marcus and Jabri. And then after I got out, I was like, I still was really sick, still real sick. And I've been talking about the fatigue, so I couldn't take care of Jabri. And so I sent her back to Alabama with my mom. And Marcus was older, so he was 5, so he was in school. So I was able to manage him a little bit more with my best friend. So he just went to school and stuff. But I had to quit my job because I couldn't work from just being sick and the fatigue. And then I said, okay, like my mom made the decision to move me back when I was 5. I made the decision to move my own self back to Alabama when I was 23 and a half. Because I just needed the support, so I couldn't do it. And it took me a long, long time to get back. That was a bad episode.
That was the worst one you had ever had.
Ever in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the worst. That was the worst.
It was.
That was the worst.
That was
That
terrible.
was the worst. Yeah, because they didn't think you was gonna they really didn't think you was gonna make it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, she gonna be all right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she gonna be all right. And the doctors, they were so amazed. It was all white doctors because she went to was it a military hospital or Navy
Yeah, it
hospital?
was. Yeah, because at the time, I lived in Norfolk, so everything was a lot of medical thing. But my now husband, we met because we both worked for the government. So I didn't work for them then after I got sick because I transitioned to work as a teacher at a private school. But all of my medical care was still with the military because I just kept my insurances and stuff. So that's how I ended up at a medical facility for them giving me treatment. Yeah.
Right. And he was just so surprised that I was so knowledgeable about
The sickle cell.
About sickle cell. And he said, well, yeah. And he said, yeah, I see a little sickle or whatever. And he couldn't believe it that you had went so far up to, he was 24, almost 25.
Yeah, somewhere around up in there.
Almost
I had
25.
23.
23, yeah.
So that was 24 when I went into hospital. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 24 going on 25. And he was so amazed about how far you had went, and you had all your organs and all this other kind of stuff. And, you know, and he didn't believe me. So I had to get on the phone and call back to Alabama. And Dr. Hayes was no longer practicing at the clinic. He wasn't in the clinics anymore, but he was teaching at the South University, South Alabama. He was teaching it, right? He was still teaching, and so I got it. It was through Franklin Clinic. That's what you went through, and I asked him, could I get to him? And I left a message, and he called me back, and he said, Ms. Jordan, I ain't seen you. Yeah, he said, I hadn't seen you in years. How's Kavanda? I said, well, she's gone now, and she lives in Virginia. And I said, and the doctors don't want to believe me about that she has this sickle cell, which is, you've been treating her for years. And so what he did was he talked to the doctor and sent the doctor all of your records that they had. And that's when you started getting better because they was treating me. They was right. They was on the same page, and he knew and he knew what to do. But them white dogs, they like they didn't know. They didn't know. They didn't know. And that's when you start getting better, and each step you get better and better and better and process and stuff.
Because the only thing that I could remember during that time, because I was really sick, I remember they couldn't get the fever down. I remember that I lost vision because of the high fever. And I remember when they shot my body up with the dye to try to figure out to see everything that was going on internal on the inside. So those
they were trying to see with that dye, was it you have any blockage or any sickle blood vessel that has stuck into the vein and couldn't get around. That's what that was for, but it was still flowing. You was just so tired that you just had to build your body back up. Yeah. Slowly to come back up, and the fever will come every 12 hours. It was like a clockwork.
Yeah, they could not. They
could not get it down on ice beds and everything else, and they would take you off, and you would have it perfect. But when that magic hour of the 12 hours, it would go right back to it. So
yeah. So how was you feeling during that time? So I know you said that you knew about God, but you wasn't saved. So how was you able to get through as a parent, seeing your child that sick in that condition health-wise?
I was never, ever, from the first time they told me that you had sickle cell, I was never, ever frightened that you was going down. It never crossed my mind. And it still don't.
So you just had that internal
I
reassurance.
just internally, yeah, that my child is going to make it. And that was the end. I never questioned it or whatever, but I would be there. I cried many days because I didn't like to see you in pain.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't tell me you was in pain.
No.
And I didn't know.
Nobody know that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And you didn't want to take the medicine, and all I always had to hold you down and
force me to
pull
take it.
you.
Oh my
Right.
God.
And so, but as far as you dying, no, that never was
A
a
thought.
problem. I just wanted to make your life, let you know that I love you and you can do anything that you wanted to do while you was here.
Amen.
You can do anything that you want to do to enjoy your life. That was it. That was my sole purpose with my girls.
Mm-hmm.
Is for them to know I love them and to do the best that I could for them, to show them that I love them and that they could do anything in my life. That was my main goal. So y'all would miss out on anything in elementary school. I was always at the schools. I was always at taking y'all different places, you know, so because I didn't have that when I grew up. You know, we went to school, came home, maybe went to the movies. But as we got older, not just me, but my siblings, we started doing that.
Y'all did an amazing job with that.
Huh?
I said, y'all did an amazing job with exposing us.
Right. That's what I'm saying with our siblings, because mom and daddy, they was a different time.
Yeah.
And being in the South, it wasn't a lot of things that you could do back in the 50s, the 40s, and the 50s and the 60s. You just couldn't do them being Black and live. But when y'all was in school, the 70s and the 80s, going to Disney World, going to New Orleans, going to Florida.
All kinds of places.
Going
to aquariums and
right.
Cherokee tribe things y'all would take us to when they would have like their national international Indian Day on the reservations and stuff like that.
It was at Thanksgiving up there in Atmore. We used to go up there. They take y'all to introduce you there.
I remember all those things, and I definitely credit you, Mom. I am thriving and living and have two beautiful children, and now here to see my grandchildren, which are your great-grandchildren. We have 6 now on the count. You have 6 great-grands. 2 grands.
I got 6 great-grands.
It's so funny how I am the only one of your daughters.
Only one of my children. I have children.
Kids. When they told you to not allow me to have them.
That one day that you wouldn't be living. That's what they told me.
And I know my last video, I talked about the life expectancy. So I know when I was a teenager and start, understanding more, we talked about when I went to the doctors, they talked to me more about it in terms of giving me my life expectancy was 40. So for you, they told you 18, and then as I got older, they told me 40. So I made it to the 18, and I passed the 18, and then they gave me the life expectancy of 40. And now here I am moving on into, my 50.
Right. Nobody knows but the good Lord.
That's it.
That's just it. And I trust him. I just say, Lord, I trust you. And whatever you want, and just let me be able to, you're going to hold me through it, whatever happens. Because, life is not a certain thing. You never know what's going to happen. But I've learned to trust him completely.
Amen.
Completely.
And that's what it is for me too.
Everything, in
Everything.
everything, not just some things,
All
everything.
things.
I mean, everything. I was like, Lord, you want me to put this on?
Yeah.
If not, let me know, whatever. And then I follow that first instinct of what he tells me to do. But that's in a learning process as you grow in Christ. It just don't happen now.
Mm-hmm.
It took me 30 years to get where I'm at. To get to this point where I am totally complete from the Lord.
Yeah.
I'm totally complete from the Lord. I don't need, I used to think it used to be a man or my parents or my peers and all of that. I done found out.
Yeah.
The Lord makes me complete. So,
amen. And that's why our identity is in. And as I grow older, and like what you're saying, you know, you guys always took me to church. Church was always available to me.
Yes, because you had a grandmama and granddaddy.
But in terms of having that personal relationship, we just wasn't taught that. We knew about God. Right. We knew about church. We went to church. Right. We knew about God. We studied Him. But no one talked about, okay, what is this relationship? How your life is supposed to change from what you see now to what the Lord is expecting for you in terms of your purpose, in terms of you having this abundant life, regardless if you have a disease or not.
Yeah.
No.
But back in the day, it goes on with learning. Back in the day, when we was going to church, because we was raised in the church, your great-granddaddy was a minister. Mm-hmm. And you had multiple uncles and aunties that was ministers. But it wasn't a teaching about getting a personal relationship with the Lord. It was a teaching out, you got to be good, don't kill, don't steal, and those little, the 10 Commandments per se.
Yeah, and your sins.
And your sins. Yeah. That's it. They teach you
kind of like to try to change you into being good. As opposed to teaching you the knowledge base of why these things are important, because they separate you from the Lord.
Right. But back in the day, that's the only thing that they had to go on, because of growing up, they would teach the same 4 little lessons, and rather they would rotate it and teach the same thing. They would teach the same little lessons, and all kind of understanding you would get, which I would love. I love Sunday school. I love Sunday school because we had a little pamphlet, like a little 2-page thing, and color in it, and it had different verses in it. But the preaching was the same. They would do the same thing over and over again. But back in that day, most of them couldn't read, and they memorized. And so they was going about, if you could do more, and all that kind of stuff, and the Lord, and stuff like that, they didn't teach.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so grateful for the day of ministry that you are being taught.
You're being taught.
You're being taught and teaching about having a relationship, your own personal relationship with the Lord. Your walk with the Lord is not like my walk with the Lord. Everybody is not the same. And the Lord didn't make us the same. It take all kind, including me, to make God the world that God made. And He knows. So, but yeah.
Well, this has been such a great conversation. We can go on and on about it, but
because we ain't got to. It's just so much different.
So much to talk about, the nitty and the gritty. So maybe we can, like what we was talking about the other day, invite other family members on to continue the conversation as we pay homage to Sickle Cell Awareness Month, the whole month of September. I hope you guys have been enjoying the content that I have been bringing you. So one last question for my mom, and this is mostly for other parents and other people out there, Sickle Cell Warriors. What advice would you give to sickle cell people with sickle cell and parents of children with sickle cell?
First of all, when a parent learns that their child have this disease, and I don't care whether it's sickle cell, cancer, whatever, because anyway, it doesn't matter. Love.
Amen.
That's it. Love. Not just doing for them or whatever. Show them that you love them. Show them that you'll be there for them or whatever. Do what you can, but the most important thing is that child know that you're there, that they love. That's my perspective of it. That they know that you love them and you're going to do everything you can do to keep them from being sick. Whatever you can do, you're going to do it. And you got to learn to be patient. Don't give up. But you still have to instill in them things that like I did with her. I was strict, but I also was lenient in something, not 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. But you have to do what's good for the child, because the parents is hurting too. And you was talking about being depressed.
Yeah,
I was depressed too. Yeah. Depression is a real thing. Mm-hmm. And back in the day with they didn't say nothing to me about me.
Right.
They said nothing to me about me. But if it wasn't for the Lord and for my family upholding me,
yeah,
I advised them to get some support.
Yeah, it's very.
And what I learned is when I went to the Sickle Cell Foundation, they would talk to me, and I would see other parents and stuff like that. Giving us a support group.
And it makes a difference, you guys, being supported with people that understand what you're going through.
What you're going through.
Like with our family, yes, we're very close knit and they're very supportive. But in terms of really understanding what you're saying, they can't understand that all the way because they haven't experienced it. They haven't been through it. I know I told y'all the last time when I went on my own to join the sickle cell chapter is when I really felt a whole lot better, and I was able to pull myself up out of my bootstraps, after that really hard episode, because I was sick a long time. I mean, when I think about that, it was like almost 10 plus years before I really was able to get back up and try to go to work. And
then you left and went back to Virginia again. I was like, Lord have mercy.
And came back to Virginia. That's okay, because you got 2 years. I'm coming back to you, mommy. Coming back to you. So you guys, we thank you for joining us for this conversation. I will be posting some more. Just give you an update on our fundraiser. We have $275, so we're close to that $500 total. So I will come back and put all the information down in the description box. Please like and share the content if you've enjoyed it, and click on the subscribe button so you don't miss any more of the videos that I post. So we thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have a great evening. Tell them bye, mommy.
Bye. Love
Bye.
you. Bye.